This is Jordan Tower with JT News. Make sure you smash that like button, smash that subscribe. And well, we know 50 Cent and Big Meech are beefing right now. And it's over Big Meech wanting too much of the BMF series. And now it's being exposed, what 50 already knew, obviously, that Tammy Cowens worked with Big Meech to try to reduce the sentence by cooperating. And allegedly, he was sending her to set up Cuffy, okay? Was a big-time dealer in St. Louis that Big Meech had been friends with for over a decade. But what brought down BMF back in the early 2000s is Terry and Meech split up. They had a big fight in Mexico. Everyone went down to Mexico and this big jet. Jeezy talks about this, and they had this big fight down there, and they decided to split the family where Big Meech is BMF, and then Terry's 50 Boys, right? And that split right there, and them not being cool anymore, but still doing business, put a big problem in the operation, you know, because now Terry's talking about Meech. You're getting Meech is trying to grow his operation more and trying to break into music, so he's a hot boy out here because he's got billboards everywhere and spending money to be on DVD magazines and be in magazines and throwing money in the clubs, rolling around in really expensive cars, and then having a lot of new people attached to BMF that are just liabilities. And these liabilities took him out. Let's get into this right here, and let me know what you guys think.
This is only like a little part of how Big Meech got brought down, because you would feel like someone like him, so powerful at the top of the family, is very insulated, and he believed he was. This was part of the reason for starting BMF, you know, for starting the name BMF. He wanted to move into legit music. So that was his escape plan. But it actually ended up hurting him in the long run because it was a name to attach to a lot of things. And they were getting really flashy as this investigation started. So BMF was what created, I think, in 1999, 2000. But they didn't start advertising it till 2003. Now, Dexter Sosa Hussey, he details kind of how he believes they started this investigation into BMF. It was a Drano investigation that started around 2001, 2002 that started with a jail call. A phone call in 2001 from jail with a guy named Harold and Tanya Welch. It was a husband and wife. She was upset about like something with her kids. She had just had a kid with Harold, and you know, a lot of information was given to Harold over the phone about, you know, BMF and Meech and everything, you know, just the whole thing. So they had all these phone, you know, jail calls are recorded. You don't want to be speaking on a jail call with all this kind of stuff. So they had like beginnings of an investigation here. Now, Big Meech was brought down with a series of snitches, and it all starts at the bottom. So, if you know BMF, they were like the suppliers in the USA. They had a direct connect to Mexico, and of course, I'm sure that it started in Colombia, made its way to Mexico, and then, you know, so, you know, there's so many levels before a custy gets his little, you know, 8-ball, whatever, you know. So it's like they were moving like thousands of these keys, you know, and these low-level dealers were picking up from another guy. Okay, so it all starts with these like low-level dealers. Now, this is around 2003, 2004 right here when all of this stuff starts to connect and lead the feds to Meech. Around this time, Meech has billboards up in Atlanta. BMF is yours, all that. They're pushing Blue Da Vinci as their artist. They're behind a lot of artists, like you know, associated acts like T.I., Jeezy. You know, Meech just loved music and supported music, so he would pay to get these guys records played. You know, Meech controlled the club scene. Buckhead in Atlanta, it's all buildings now, but it used to be just the club scene in Atlanta. There's still a lot of clubs around there, but it used to be the club scene, you know, like, and Meech was buying out these clubs like every night. He'd go to a different club, spend, you know, 50 grand, 100 grand. Everybody had, you know, he was making it, you know, he was going to Strokers. That's not in Buckhead, but he was going to like Strokers also, and pinups, you know, these strip clubs, because a lot of records were broken in the strip clubs back then, you know, as well. So anyways, you know, here's the billboards, crazy, you know. So, you know, 2 Chainz and people like that would copy this later on. I mean, everybody wants to be kind of like BMF. So anyways, they get led to a guy named Hoskins. Now, first they start following these low-level dealer guys. And this all leads up to a guy named o-dawg. Eventually, Omari McCree, probably heard of him. But it starts out with these low-level dealers and his name was Smurf. And Smurf needed work, right? So he was supplied by a guy named Hoskins, and Hoskins got his work from BMF. So, basically, Smurf called Hoskins for work, and the feds had a line on Hoskins. They had a wiretap. So he calls him for work. You know, is everything? Da-da-da-da. They go back and forth. They arrange a meeting in Atlanta. Of course, they trail this guy Smurf to Howell Mill Road. He's tailed by the feds, and they get a line on Hoskins now. They know what he looks like. They're able to follow where he lives. I think they even met at his apartment building, which is crazy. Okay, so now they're able, after a few days, to tap Hoskins' phone. Hoskins is Smurf's connect, right? So they tap his phone, and when they tap Hoskins' phone, they're able to intercept the next deal, which is even bigger days later. Now they're trailing Hoskins, and they got the wiretaps on him, and they hear a big deal's about to happen. They follow him to the spot, that his apartment building. 2 cars pull up. They see the transaction happen, and they pick up the guys that just bought some work from Hoskins. As they're getting picked up, they call Hoskins, giving them more audio wiretaps, saying, "Hey, we're about to get pulled over, man." He's like, "Yo, man, don't call me, man. Like, just run, do what you got to do, but don't contact me." They're probably worried, they're probably thinking in their head, "Yo, is this guy being tailed? Like, how are we getting pulled over?" The feds have a regular cop car pull them over. They don't run or anything. I mean, they see a weapon in the car. They search the car. They find a bunch of keys and everything, right? So they play these wiretaps for these guys, and they give it up, because they don't really need them to give it up, but they give it up anyways, and they're able to learn more about Hoskins, and they pull Hoskins in now because these guys, are able to corroborate everything that they were dealing with Hoskins. He's their connect, blah blah blah. So they pull Hoskins in. Hoskins caves. Hoskins was supposed to do 15 years, okay? He was pulled in Clayton County for trafficking. But, he was supposed to get 15 years if you look in all these records, right? 15 years. And I think he's let out, let's see. So he goes in 2005 and he's let out in 2009, where he's let out on parole. Okay? But here's the key. This is why he was let out so early. I mean, that's a lot. That's a huge time reduction. He gave up o-dawg. We all know o-dawg from the song Air Forces with Jeezy. We all know that song. And you already know, dog, 745s back to back, me and o-dawg. All right. So anyways, this is Omari McCree, a.k.a. Master Splinter. Okay. So anyways, they... with Hoskins, he makes a deal for a reduced sentence, 15 to like 4 years, and he gives up the connect to BMF. Now, he talks about BMF. He's like, yo, these guys run the city. I'll give up the top guys there, reduce my time. He sings like, Sinatra, gives him everything, okay? And then basically... they're on to this guy named o-dawg now. I think he called o-dawg a few times. Eventually, o-dawg says too much on the phone, and they're able to obtain a wire on o-dawg. And I don't know if they met or anything, but it was enough for them to get a wiretap on o-dawg. And that's all they cared about. They just want to work their way up the chain to the top guys, okay? Now, BMF was already a target to the feds, so this was working out perfect for them, This is a happy mistake. Just working up the trail, they eventually get to BMF. Because BMF has these billboards. They're making all this noise in the clubs. There's, like, a lot of violence happening in Buckhead clubs and everything, and there's so many members in BMF at this point. Dexter Hussey says this in his interview. He was upset with Meech because Meech had so many people around. Now, Hussey's been with him since Detroit, since the beginning. 50 Boys, right? 50 Boys was in the 90s, right? 80s and 90s. And now it's early 2000s, and Meech has probably 200-300 people around claiming BMF. You can't control 300 people, man. And you can't be completely insulated. Plus, he's also trying to make things look good when he goes to the club. I mean, they're going and... I mean, I know you've seen Jeezy's old DVDs before he got on. I mean, and you've seen the Smack DVDs with Blue Da Vinci in them. They had Ferraris. They had Lambos. They had Rolls Royces. Everybody was driving a car that cost at least $150,000. So anyways... let's move on with o-dawg, okay? Even in the Genius notes, it's so funny. They're like, o-dawg's nickname was his nickname. Omari McCree is a well-known member of the Black Mafia family operation. O-dawg is a snitch, partly responsible for bringing down I love these notations because people make them. He served 5 years of 15-year sentence due to testifying against Big Meech. He actually didn't testify. He just... gave him... I don't think he had to testify. He gave him enough information to lead him to the next guy, It's just a big chain of snitches, okay? Here's the Air Force's video. You can see even... that's Bull right in the background. He does a lot of interviews. He seems like a cool cat. He did his time and came home. He stood tall. These videos... also were great for the feds. They could put names to people and stuff. Like I think there's a Blue Da Vinci on a Smack DVD where he I don't know if that's o-dawg because I don't think that's Meech. Meech is a bigger guy. You can't tell because the quality's so bad in the video, but this is him right here. So anyways, that must be him in the video because that's right when he says 745 back to back, me and o-dawg. So anyways, this is Omari. And so then basically getting back to this. So the feds are on to o-dawg. O-dawg, this is what happens. So Hoskins calls o-dawg. They get enough connections. So now they're onto o-dawg. Now a shooting happens at a club called Atrium. Okay, this is the inside Atrium. This is the outside Atrium. I don't even think Atrium exists anymore. Okay, I mean, this is a club from like 15 years ago. If it exists, it's not the same. Okay, it's just the name. Anyways, Atrium. Shooting happens. O-dawg, for some reason, is a suspect. Okay, he gets pulled in. Him and this guy named Jeffrey Lee or whatever his name, Jeffrey something. They're partners. They're always together. Somehow Big Meech is dragged in after this at pinups and questioned about this atrium shooting because BMF, there's so many members in BMF that, you know, of course there's witnesses and stuff, and people were like, yo, he's a part of BMF. Because it was so, at this point, it's like 04, 03, 04. BMF is huge, okay? Everybody's talking about BMF. Imagine if there was social media back then. They would have gone down in a year because so many people would have been talking about it. But just the chatter, everybody was like, yo, they spent $50,000 a night. You know, these guys spend money, bro. They were making tons of money, spending money with a lot of money, and there's hate, there's violence, there's just a lot of stuff, okay? So the cops and the feds did not like BMF. There was just too much problems. And that's the problem with having too many people claiming one thing. I mean, this is kind of a problem that Lil Durk's having right now with OTF. I mean, just another guy is getting accused of something today, I heard, you know? So anyways, when you get that and then they start building these cases against all these people, you start to become a problem, a nuisance to them, and they want to get the top guy. So anyways. Wiretaps revealed off of o-dawg's phone, right? They get these meeting spots that are named, right? The elevator, the gate, Space Mountain, the kitchen. Each one is these spots. They had tons of houses around Atlanta. So I guess the elevator was a house with an elevator. The gate was something with a gate. I think it turns out it was a gas station, right? Then Space Mountain, that was I could only imagine that was somewhere near Stone Mountain, right? Then you got the kitchen, which is a house. Turns out it's a house with a big kitchen. So after Meech is pulled over in pinups and questioned about the atrium shooting, which o-dawg is connected to, right? They know this. He gets out, right? He gets out a day later. He bails out. And his assistant calls o-dawg. And he's like, yo, Meech wants to meet you. He wants to meet you at the elevator. And he's like, why? And he's like, I didn't do anything. He's like, nah, he wants to meet you. He's not going to call you on the phone. Like, he's laying low right now. You got to go meet him. So, of course, the feds follow him and get an idea of where the elevator is. And, you know, as time goes on, there's more and more of this questioning about, you know, they learn that the one of the guys that cop from o-dawg was arrested. That's the guy that obviously led him to the whole thing. That we were just talking about. What's his name again? Hoskins, right? They learned that Hoskins was arrested, and he's doing, you know, and he's gonna start doing time. And they're like, you know, the atrium shooting. They're like, you know, this guy is just too hot right now. So, and they learned that Hoskins, that Omari was brought in for the atrium shooting. So they're like, you know what, man, you guys need to chill out. You know, like stop. You know, now. Mario didn't stop, okay, like Meech wanted to, so, like, you know, he was still moving around. Think about it, you're moving around in, like, a Porsche. He's driving a Porsche, right? You're hot. You're hot out here. And you're driving around in a Porsche, bro. Like, not even anything that blends in. So, anyways, I mean, who makes plays in such a high-end vehicle? You would want it like a Honda or something, right? To, like, you know, just blend in a little better. So anyways, o-dawg on the wiretap starts acting shook. Like, he knows, like, yo, I feel like I'm going to be going down for something. You know, he's seeing vans around his house and everything, and he's getting nervous, right? So he calls this guy Jeffrey, like we said, his partner, and he's like, yo, man, there's like vans outside my house, man. He's paranoid, right? Talking on the phone, dude. Like, think about it. The Wire is out at this point. I'm talking about The Wire, the show, right? They show you how they, like, tap people. If you study any criminal history or how they took down, like, the Gaudis and everything, It's all wiretaps, bro. Like some form of a wiretap. You should not be doing any talking at all, right? Who turned out to be the smart one on the wire? Marlo, right? Because he stopped talking on the phone, right? He was doing like codes, and eventually, you know, they break these codes, but like you got to keep switching it up. So, anyways, calls up Jeffrey, and you know they're talking about, oh, you got to move these clothes. The feds aren't dumb, you know, they know the clothes probably work, right? So, you know, they scramble. You know, o-dawg's driving around his Porsche. Jeffrey's like, yo, I got a perfect plan. You know, let's keep it at my girl's spot. They move it over there. Jeffrey's girl finds out about it. She's like, yo, get this stuff out of here. Think about it. They're tapping Jeffrey's phone too, so they're hearing this. Yo, I don't want this here anymore. This is dirty. Da da da. So, anyways, Jeffrey's like scrambling over there. He's calling o-dawg, yo, I got to get this stuff out of here. We got to move it somewhere else, right? So Jeffrey goes over there. His girl's tripping. They take the 10 keys that they had moved from Omari and Jeffrey's spot to her house, and they put it in the car. They're driving off. The feds are like, all right, this is our time. They pull them over. They get to work, and they release Jeffrey and his girlfriend. Right then and there, you know, they're cooperating. It's over, okay? So, but they kept the work, right? Think about it. They owe Meech now $300,000. Omari and Jeffrey owe Meech $300,000 because they didn't, when Meech didn't want anything, you know, he wanted nothing to do with that stuff, but nobody went and picked up the work from them, right? And nobody was probably going to because they were hot, right? So it's like, yo, just call it a loss, you know, like whatever. But still, in their minds, they're like, yo, they're going to want this money eventually, right? So anyways, they take the kilos and they keep them. So now, what happens after this? They basically kind of vanish, and eventually, you know, some other things transpire, and they pick up Omari, a.k.a. o-dawg, and he's questioned. And he details, like, you know, how he found out about BMF. Well, he said, well, it wasn't BMF in the beginning. 1999, I joined him. And then 2002, I joined what's called BMF, and details the members in the beginning. He gives locations. Like, oh, they're like, what's this spot? The elevator. Oh, it's a house over here. What's the gate? The gate is where J-Bo, you've seen J-Bo recently going at Blue Da Vinci and everything. J-Bo was second in command to Meech. He was like the guy that was insulating Big Meech, right? So J-Bo was the connect at the gate, which turned out to be a chevron on Roswell Road. I'll show you that right here. Wait, hold on. Let me go back. It turned out to be a chevron on Roswell Road. J-Bo would meet him here. They called it the gate, probably because maybe there's a gate around there. I don't know. They called it the gate, right? Then he details J-Bo works for Meech, and Meech is the one who gives the okay to give the keys out and everything. And guess what? They're just, they from there, they got a case, man. You know, they know that Meech is at the top. They know J-Bo's the next guy. They're putting, you know, names and faces together, and then they start building what you see on a billboard, on these bulletin boards. You know, the top guy, the next guy in charge. Wait, let me see if I have that. BMF Fed board, maybe that'll come up. I forget what you call it. BMF Fed case. Let's see if they have it. I see it all the time, but yeah, that's when they get these bulletin boards where you see like the top guy in command and everything, and you know this was a big blow to the whole case, man. You know, it's crazy. And at this point, I think it's 04. And then they just keep building the case from there. I'll detail other snitches that took them down later. But this is one of the main ones, o-dawg. Dude, you know what's funny about this? Just to wrap this up. This is why mobsters you see in movies take people out, because it's like they're gonna flip, man. A lot of you people aren't built to do time. That's the most dangerous thing, is that like you got all these people out there and they know too much, and if they get pulled in and they can't do any time, like a lot of people did do their time. Some people didn't, and they talk for a reduced sentence, and they can't even. I think he ended up doing a couple of years, and then he was let out. When everybody else got like 10 years, 15 years. In Big Meech's case, 30 years, you know? It's just a lot, man. Southwest T's out due to good behavior and the whole shutdown and everything, but we will get to more of this later. This is probably one of the most interesting stories going on in the past 15 years, you know, like that they got so big, and you know, the takedown, it's inevitable. The takedown is always inevitable because there's just too many loose ends, you know, like especially when you get as big as they were. There was like 200-300 people, you know. No wonder Big Meech in the recruitment video he put out, it was almost like on the Smack DVD, he's like, yo, you know, you can mess with the mob and you get a girl house or this. They're getting girls' houses because those are good stash spots, man. It's just more property. It's more property. You know, you get the benefits, you get money, but hey, it's just more. But you know what? Eventually, someone's going to crack, man. And that's what happened here. And it took down J-Bo and a bunch of other people, man. J-Bo did all his time, you know, and he stood tall.
But now J-Bo is back in jail for PVP fraud, so that's nasty work. And you got all these allegations going on about Big Meech from 50 Cent, Cuffy, and Tammy Cowan. So we're going to have to see how this all shakes out.